Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles has such an interesting legacy from all the different iterations of shows and movie adaptations it has had. As a fan of a good amount of TMNT and having an enjoyment of the previous series I talked about on the channel, the 2003 version of the show, as well as enjoying what the newest film had to offer, there are a few versions of the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles that I hadn't had a chance to properly sit down and experience. Today, we move on to one of those series, with that being the 2012 version of TMNT, simply titled Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles. That was basically tradition until the series that comes after this one, but that's a video for next year maybe, who knows. Today, let's take a look at what the 2012 TMNT brought to the table, trading out the 2D animation look for some 3D animation and being the first Nickelodeon produced iteration of the franchise. Let's talk about it. You ever get tired when saying Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, especially when you have to say it as much as one would have to in a video like this? Just asking. So let's make things known right off the bat. This version of the show is not like the last version of the show, as this series would take the approach of being a bit more light in the content it offers while still having a lot of action, but wouldn't go to the darker depths of the 2003 series, with that one trying to be closer to the comics it all stems from. So if you want grittier TMNT, the previous series is the one for you. I just want to make that as clear as possible. But that's not to say that the 2012 series doesn't have its moments though, because it sure does. For me though, the biggest initial turnoff that kept me from ever giving this series a chance in the first place was the look of it. Now, before we get mad at me here, please just hear me out, because I do love 3D animation. Jimmy Neutron is one of my favorite shows of all time. But when TMNT 2012 came out, it just looked too blocky and angular, and it was reminding me of something that would be for a way younger audience. And I know that's not the case, but my brain 12 years ago looked at it like that and never looked back to give it a chance. Cause really, I don't hate the look of the show, and I don't hate that TMNT was 3D animated. Putting away any worries of what this version of the show would be from way back then, I found myself appreciating a lot of what this series had to offer, and in the ways that newer versions of the franchise like the Mutant Mayhem movie were able to capture really well, and that's the teenage part of the title. Yes, they are still mutant ninja warriors, but these are also supposed to be teenagers who are trying to understand who they are in general. This is super important to see that happening here in the 2012 version, as it really needed to be something different from what had just come before it. It needed to have a new angle and approach when it came to the characters of Leonardo, Raphael, Donatello, and Michelangelo, as well as the supporting cast and heck, even the entire world around them that they inhabit. The 2003 version of the show is great at what it focused on, so don't reboot the property just to try and make the same thing. Change it up, find new focus, and create something more original that still fits in line with what people enjoy about the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles. So that's exactly what they did, spending more time here developing the characters and what they are going through, rather than just dealing with them fighting the bad guys. There is a lot of love poured into what makes the 2012 version of the show, and I want to explore how and why that is as we take a look at this series. Created by Ciro Nieli, Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles 2012 would end up being a pretty solid enough hit for Nickelodeon, going on to run for a total of 124 episodes over 5 seasons before ending in late 2017. After the end of the previous Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles series, the 2003 one, the power of the property was clearly there, and we would no longer have that long gap between iterations of the cartoon. In 2009, Viacom stepped in with a massive $60 million bag for co-creator Peter Laird to get the full-on rights for Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, and wasted no time putting the use of the property to work. Not only would there be a show in the works, being the one that we're talking about today, but also the production of the first live-action Michael Bay Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles movie. Having the rights to this now, this was going to be Nickelodeon's flagship series to be aimed at their younger boy audience, but also wanted to make sure that in several ways that they aren't ignoring their slightly older teen audience. This also was a great dive into the toy market, and of course, countless merch items, so the amount of avenues built from spending $60 million had a massive ceiling of what they could potentially earn. That's all fine and dandy, but what really matters to you or me is if what they create is good. So is 2012's Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles good? Well, yeah, flat out just yes. I really didn't expect everything that I'd get out of this series. First, I'd like to say that the main voice cast of the Turtles here works really well with how they add emphasis to the base personalities we've come to expect from the 4 Turtles Turtles. Greg Sipes voicing Mikey fits really well for a whole list of reasons that I could go through, but just based on all of the characters he has voiced, you'd see why it fits really well here for Mikey. Rob Paulsen, who's no stranger to voicing in a Turtles cartoon already, comes in and voices Donnie this time, and it was perfect. And much like Greg Sipes, if you look at Rob's history here, you'll see why his voice was perfect to bring out this nerdier side of the Turtles group. Sean Astin is definitely a standout, coming in and voicing Ralph to give a rough and tough performance as the series progresses, especially in the final season of the show, or just even the finale of the show. The aggression and anger here can truly be felt, and I appreciate everything he gave to this role. Now, for Leo, it's a bit of a mixed bag, and that's only because the voice was switched around a bit. Jason Biggs would voice the character for the first season and the majority of the second before being fired off of the show for certain offensive tweets, leading to the season being completed by Dominic Catrambone before Seth Green would come in to voice the character from season 3 until the end of the show. Overall, that one, like I said, it's a mixed bag, but for the leader role, it's still done well on both sides of the series. I must say that the series offers a lot more for these characters through how it has a focus on character development, letting us learn more about who these teenage turtles are as they discover that as well. Throughout the show, I love getting to see how their relationship to one another shines in everyday conversations or when they are in the middle of a fight. We start off getting to know them and even meeting the member of April O'Neil and how she's portrayed in the series as they have to deal with the Krang and their invasion. April this time around is involved in all of this because of her father getting abducted by the Krang, and through worlds colliding, April ends up becoming an ally here and is brought into the fold of training with Master Splinter. I actually really love how Splinter is portrayed in the series and how much importance he truly has to the overall plot, how the turtles are connected to him, how April is trained, and just so much more. His character leads to some of the saddest and most wholesome moments from the show in general. Casey Jones comes into the series during its second season, and it's funny because no matter what, all I hear is Josh Peck. Other than that, as a character, he's what you'd expect from a Casey, usually, getting brought into everything and wanting to be this vigilante at first through his infatuation with April, but in general, his brotherly bond with the other turtles that develops is pretty great. And I love that there is an emphasis on both Casey and especially April here, for them still being young and dealing with stuff in school, as that all aids into the whole teenager aspect of the series. I think the series does justice to how it portrays its villains as well, knowing when to make things lighter and funnier with some of them, but knowing when to turn up the heat and make some of them genuinely terrifying and have such a more evil presence on screen. Like, of course, there is Shredder, and just like usual, he's doing his Shredder thing, and it works really well because they establish a point to him and his evil ways. You really get to know who this Shredder is, and it genuinely adds a much needed layer onto a character that deserves more depth, and I truly appreciate it. But I also love how that plays into the character of Karai, and how she is directly involved with her own struggle, and honestly, as far as characters go, her story is pretty great and one of the most interesting in the entire series, at least early on in my opinion. There's other villains like Tiger Claw who bring in a pure menacing fright to it all, or Dog Pound who goes through some more horrifying transformations, making him an actual threat, or at least just more scary looking. Plus, with how this mutagen is involved in everything and how horror-esque the show gets with it sometimes, it's pretty cool, and I did find it well written into how it's so important to both the heroes and the villains. I also really like all of the stuff with the Krang and how perfectly they are used between being an actual reason so much in the story here is even happening, or why major events even sparked in the first place, to just being easy fodder to keep throwing at the turtles to take down. Plus, having Gilbert Gottfried voicing Krang Subprime brought a level of both fear and laughter that I appreciate so much.
This is Turtle Domination Weekend.
Again, the Krang in general I think are so well done because they nicely fit into nearly all aspects of the plot, to both the good guys, the bad guys, and just the world around them. I love it. And what you will overall get with this series is a look into what it means to grow up, hitting hard with life lessons that you get as a teenager while still having a core focus on the turtles saving the day. It's a great blend of action and character writing that ends up working together so well in the end, and I just appreciate that we get to spend time to understand each of the turtles better, watch them define and understand who they are, and have their personality shine in new ways that take what we already know about them and make them even more interesting. There's this whole angle about the turtles watching these shows and cartoons that are clear parodies of real shows and cartoons, but here it helps inspire them and teaches them, and it's a cool parallel to something like what the creator of the show had felt while growing up, and how many like myself probably felt growing up. It's a cool way to structure part of what makes the turtles in this series who they are. This whole world they set up for this version of TMNT just feels so fresh fresh, not feeling like anything that had come before, but still feeling familiar enough that you do feel at home with these turtle brothers, enjoying a nice slice of pizza after a long day. All of this is well and good for the series, but as far as structure, the series had its through-line narratives run throughout the first 4 seasons of the show, as with its 5th and final season, things would change up a bit. Real quick though, and to speak of things that won't change up a bit, is why I love Gamer Subs, because of how well it helps me stay feeling energized and focused while working on these videos. So aside from the current Christmas sale going on where you can get a bunch of awesome bonuses and savings, you can head over to Gamer Subs by clicking the link in my description, and by using my code FRINGE, you get 10% off any purchase you ever make for yourself. There's tons of great flavors, both new and old, and lots of great other things like their shaker cups, merch drops, and so much more. Use my code FRINGE every time you purchase anything from Gamer Subs and you'll save 10% off your order. It helps support the channel and you save some money, so use my code FRINGE at checkout. I truly appreciate you. The final season of the show would be the most different from the rest of the series, bringing in a new name for the series to title it Tales of the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, as this last season would focus on a collection of stories that would feel like mini movies split between a couple or few episodes that were their own standalone moments. From having to deal with a demo dragon named Cavaxis from destroying Earth, to dealing with Dracula, Frankenstein's monster, and other various creatures, to working with a samurai rabbit in another dimension, to even colliding with the original cartoon turtles. There's just so much going on here. While these ideas were pretty interesting, or sometimes rather dark, or even freaking nostalgic, there was an actual reason as to why the series went the direction it did for the final season. In an interview done by Den of Geek that I'll reference here and there throughout the rest of the video, Zero said, "With the writing on the wall that we were coming to a close, I had hoped that it would serve as an example that the team that was involved could make anything, because they, Nickelodeon, don't have a straight-to-video feature format like Warner Bros, where they'd put out maybe 4 movies a year, so my thing was, let's use Turtles as an example. As proof of concept, we can make anything. We can keep making stuff because everybody was so talented and ambitious." Of course, in the end, that didn't happen, but what did happen was we made some really intense shows and we got exhausted. So while this final season would be set up as these individual stories or tales within the world of this TMNT series, did that equate to a solid enough season of the show that can live up to the seasons that had come before? Well, yeah, for the most part, I'd say so. I think that it does lose a bit of the consistency that can be found throughout the previous 4 seasons, but what it does have are some really cool moments that can close off some chapters and hanging strings from previous seasons, as well as offer some really deep moments, like in the episode Lone Rat and Cubs, which made for a heartstring-pulling episode that shows what Master Splinter went through in protecting the Turtles and becoming their father, all as a way to celebrate a very special day for the Turtles. The whole true ending to the series was this further in the future look at the world being this apocalyptic wasteland, with Raphael being the one who we follow as he tries to survive this dark future. While that does end on a better and happier note, what has happened to the world is still canon to the story here, so it's pretty sad to think about since it's kinda dark, but that's how the show ends. In saying that though, there's a lot more to it all, so let's talk about how it all came to an end truly. Like I said, this iteration of TMNT was created by Ciro Nieli, the creator of Super Robot Monkey Team Hyperforce Go, a weird and fun show in its own right. I've made a video on that, check that out if you want after this video, but for him to get to here with Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles was something he truly wanted. He was a fan of the original comics the Turtles came from, so now when being able to work with the other co-creator of the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, Kevin Eastman, he was able to really show his love and knowledge for the series, bringing in bits and pieces of things that he loved from all these other stories, from the long history of the Turtles, to come up with something new that still respects the property as well as it tries to push it forward in new ways. When the opportunity to come up with a pitch for what the new 2012 series for the Turtles would be, Ciro wasted no time letting a chance like this go by and went for it, pitching the show with his own drawings of the Turtles that he was used to drawing as he had done so since he was a kid. Beyond this, his original pitch also focused on introducing us back into the world of TMNT through quite a dark entrance. The pitch was having the Turtles leaving the sewers for the first time after their father, Splinter, dies. Now obviously, things were drastically changed, but Ciro still moved forward and was able to finally create his own version of a property that he has held dear to him his whole life. There is even some reasoning given as to why 3D animation was the proper direction for this incarnation of the show, with Ciro explaining that while a part of him still wants it to have been done in a 2D style, the 3D animation allowed them to capture some more depth, and meaning that in several different ways. So not just in the sense of spatial awareness, but in how the characters and their emotions through their facial movements, subtle eye movements, movements, roughness of their skin, and so much more could truly be shown off, and became something that they were really proud of that they could produce, mainly thanks to it being 3D animated. Partway through the series, there was also a TV movie called Half Shell Heroes Blast to the Past, and it was cool to see that they had Glenn Murakami direct it. This series really does have a large 2003 Teen Titans influence on it from how it handles character dynamics, and some over-the-top reactions and expressions, so to see that was pretty cool. Now to talk about the other movie. It's really just the ending of the series and can be seen as 3 episodes put together. Regardless of that fact though, this was Ciro's stamp on making sure that the series ended the way he and the team working on it wanted it to.
Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles after the break. Now it's back to Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles.
Like I talked about, the final season of the series was called Tales of the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, and these stories were more standalone separate moments that we'd focus on, with some of them getting pretty dark, like the finale to the series. And whether you see it as the movie Raphael Mutant Apocalypse or a 3-episode arc, it really went out in a Mad Maxian style of glory, bringing in so much grit that there may be an R-rated cut of this film with Ciro saying that he had Sean Astin in the recording booth letting loose and letting swear words fly to bring out the edge this finale needed. I just think that's a pretty cool fact, and if there is a cut of this finale that is like that, I definitely want to see it. Now, Ciro one day would still want to come back to this world and use the versions of his turtles that he created to experience more stories with them, but he at least got to put a finishing note onto where the series ends for his own continuity. Even if Nickelodeon kind of sidelined the finale as a special alternate dimension and didn't release them as the final 3 episodes to premiere, but network politics, am I right? When this show would come to an end in 2017, the next iteration was already in the works and would eventually come out in 2018. And in fact, Ciro was offered to work on this next series, but with his version fully coming to an end, he decided it was time to take a step back from the TMNT world. Now, he did try to also pitch a story in his universe of the show that would play out in a straight-to-streaming movie way, but in the end, it didn't happen, and the next series beyond the show would move forward with a new team bringing it to life. He could return one day to the world of TMNT, saying in regards to that, yeah, definitely. I think a few years is crucial, and the right opportunity sounds like a clincher. It's not that I don't want to work on Turtles, it's just I've given it my all, and I think I needed headspace. Continuing on to say, the idea of replacing the cast, I couldn't bring myself to do it. I couldn't see the Turtles with other voices, so I decided I didn't want to be a part of any of that. But looking forward to the future, if they asked, even a few months ago, to make the Turtles movie that's on Netflix, but if it was an original iteration, a whole new rethink of the Turtles universe just as a one-shot idea, I would have probably done it. In a way, a little part of the show lives on, and that's thanks to the character of Miyamoto Usagi, a samurai rabbit who has been incorporated into the animated world of the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles since 1987. It's been its own thing, but for whatever reason, they just can't stop bringing in this samurai rabbit over to all these different versions of the Turtles. In the 2012 show, his character was brought into the series in the final season of the show, making for a fun character for the Turtles to interact with, and for an interesting story for the Turtles to be in. But you could feel that there could have been more for this character. Well, funny enough, in 2022, the character would return along with the same voice actor, Yuki Matsuzaki, in their own standalone Netflix series titled Samurai Rabbit: The Usagi Chronicles. While he isn't the main character in that series, it's just really cool that this is actually connected to the 2012 Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles show officially. Also, fun little side note, Ciro, right after his version of the Turtles ended, wound up working with Dark Horse to develop an Usagi series. But that didn't turn into anything, and the Samurai Rabbit series was not a result of his attachment to working on a version of that property. So it's just cool that the final result is something that does connect to Ciro's version of the Turtles at the end of the day. Now, while some hold out hope for more 2012 TMNT related news, it seems like anything to come from it would be very unlikely. We're already on the second iteration of the Turtles beyond that series, but who knows? Ciro said, I feel like it will come back someday. If it does, I would have to play some part in it. I would probably be like 70 years old though, see what happens. I might need a job then. Anyway, I guess that means that next time we talk about the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles again, we will be taking a look at the next TMNT series on my list to check out, Rise of the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles. In the meantime, what are your thoughts on 2012's Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles? What about it do you think made it special for you, or on the opposite side, why didn't you enjoy it? How many times did I say Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles in this video alone? Let me know all of that and more in the comments below. Thank you so much for watching. Make sure to leave a like on this video and to subscribe for more videos like this coming soon, but until then, later.